898 or biglou.com.
The Rose Garden Report with Sean Hyten.
You know, we were talking about
HD2 Portland, 1080, The Fan, an Odyssey station. It's time to kick off with Dirt and Sprague.
There's the snap, a spinning handoff, and it goes to Mitchell, who bores his way in. That is a touchdown over the right guard. The Niners have scored again here in the NFC Championship game. Mahomes in the pocket, throws a deep one. Behind the defense, it is caught. Valdez-Scantling with the grab. He got behind Millette for 33 yards. Downfield delivery to Valdez-Scantling.
This is a Super Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com. Injured? Don't trust just anyone to something so personal. Call George McCoy at Warren Allen. Online at WarrenAllen.com.
Super Week with Dirt and Sprague on 1080.
That was looking past it.
The Fan.
All right, 6:02 in the Rose City. Time for Dirt and Sprague on Portland's sports leader 1080 The Fan. Happy Monday, everybody. How we doing? Swigard, welcome back.
Thank you.
How was the roadie?
The roadie was fantastic. The Pilots are on a winning streak. That's 2 in a row, baby. Everybody feeling good.
Schultze told me on Friday that they beat Pacific, and I went, hey, all right. You
we got Pepperdine back here at home Saturday night.
There you go. 2 games in a row, baby.
Little momentum. It's a big week.
Little momentum.
Wednesday in Spokane against Gonzaga. Saturday back home against St. Mary's.
Is it not the worst about that sport when you're feeling down and out, and then your team randomly wins 2 games, and you went, oh, they figured it out. And then they go to Los Angeles and they lose both games, one of which getting bludgeoned by 30 points to the worst team in the conference. That's what it's like to be an Oregon State fan.
Yeah. I understand a similar fate.
You know what that's like.
I know exactly what that's like.
Right when you think, oh, it's clicking. It doesn't click anymore.
More focused on Wednesday. Gonzaga is as vulnerable as Gonzaga has been in a decade.
Yeah, I don't want to turn the opening segment into all WCC Gonzaga talk, but I find them interesting this year in they seem like just a bunch of role guys. They don't have a dude. Who's their dude? Who's the dude? Who's the Chet? Who's the Suggs? They don't have a dude this year.
Well, their dude just isn't NBA draft lottery dude.
Well, that's what I mean. Like,
yeah.
I know Timmy was a dude, but
Graham Ike's replaced him. He came over from Wyoming, and he's a dude, but he's not going. They don't have a lottery pick this year.
They went a lot of years where it felt like there was that
one
guy.
or two, every year. Yeah. So Nemhard's younger brother is their point guard.
Oh, okay.
He's a problem because he might be the fastest guy in all of college basketball.
Sure.
Keeping him in front of us will be a challenge.
I mean,
they still got Anton Watson.
If you were to stack the rosters, we know that the advantages are all.
Yes, but they don't have. They don't have a Chet. They don't have a rim protector as they've had. They don't even have a Brandon Clark. The guy that was supposed to be that guy went with Tommy Lloyd to Arizona. His name's Umar Ballo. That was supposed to be the guy.
Yeah.
And then they don't have another lights-out shooter like Corey Kispert.
Kispert was special.
So Nolan Hickman can get hot, but they don't have one guy. It's like the minute he crosses half court, you better find him.
Does Mark Few feel like he's long for that job? I don't know why.
I think so.
I have a read that.
Where's he going to go at this point?
I don't know if he's going anywhere.
I think it would be more about.
He's in his 60s, isn't he?
Yeah, he just got his 700th win. He's been there for what, 23, 24 years.
He's 61 years. I wouldn't put it past somebody like him to just stay in Spokane his whole life and retire in 3
I think
years.
so. The big question is, will Gonzaga finally quit teasing the conference and just go to a bigger conference at some point?
Well, the Big 12's been calling for him.
So you got to figure out how that works without football. My question is, how much money?
Well, it works for Notre Dame in the ACC without football.
Well, but they still have their own football. Like,
yeah.
does Gonzaga get absolutely lost?
If they made even half of the TV deal that the Big 12 is now have, wouldn't that still be more
Well,
than
but I don't know what
WCC?
their share would be without playing football.
Well, but I'm saying even if you took football out and cut their distribution in
Yeah.
half, that would still be more than the WCC's giving
You
them.
would assume so.
They can survive. Yeah, because they're surviving on the WCC stuff. They can survive on a lesser share of whatever the Big 12 is.
So we'll see if what happened. I know that they want to expand, and they're using having Washington State and Oregon State for a couple of years to buy them some time to find the right other schools to expand. They would like to get, I think they'd like to get to 12 actually total.
Where are they at right now? They're at 10?
We're at 9.
Yeah, okay. So that'd be 11.
Because BYU went to the Big 12.
That's right.
So they definitely want an even number, whether it's 10 or 12. They want to get there. But they're not having Washington State and Oregon State for a couple of years doesn't force their hand to just jump at whoever's available.
Sure. Well, the Pilots coming in on a 2-game winning streak.
So everybody's riding high.
Gonzaga's coming to town.
We're going to Spokane.
We're going to Spokane. That's always a big deal to go play.
We'll worry about St. Mary's on Saturday.
Well, St. Mary's is also a different animal.
They're a different animal, and they're a horrible matchup for us.
They are, and they just beat Gonzaga.
They did.
There you go.
The Gonzaga fans weren't happy.
I thought of you on Friday. We got done with the show, and Carl Weathers died.
That one got me.
Apollo Creed. It got me too.
Creed.
It got me too.
Chubbs.
Yes, Chubbs. I
wasn't as much. I know a lot of people knew him, his Predator work, and I knew of it. I just that particular genre of film doesn't get me the way.
No, I look. Predator is awesome. He's good in Predator, but he dies. He's not Arnold in that movie. Yeah. And you could also say, well, he dies in Happy Gilmore too, and that's accurate. But I think his most famous roles are Apollo Creed and Chubbs for sure.
Yep.
Apollo Creed probably number one because of how much more popular I would assume Rocky in the franchise is than Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, Rocky won an Oscar, I believe.
Yeah, but Happy Gilmore, but Oscars are not the end all be all. In fact, we're watching Oscars be handed to movies that kind of like, really? Somebody
didn't it win Best Picture? It's not like it got
Yeah, but I don't think that award show is.
You only had 5 movies get nominated for it back in the day.
But what I'm saying is Rocky, I know, is bigger, but also the ability of cult classics and to be on TV constantly the way Happy Gilmore also is.
Yes.
I think Chubbs is right there for him.
Yeah.
I put a poll question up. Who is your favorite Carl Weathers character, Chubbs or Apollo Creed? I'll go check the results of that, but I would imagine Apollo wins.
I would think so.
But I watched Happy Gilmore with my 12-year-old daughter.
There you go.
She had never seen it, and she thought it was hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
Taking the fastballs in the batting cage, hitting his hand and getting it ran over by a semi-truck. The alligator head that ended up killing
Fighting
him.
Bob Barker in the Celebrity Pro-Am.
She loved that scene.
Did she know who Bob Barker was?
Had no idea.
Had to explain that one.
Said, who is this? Why is this old guy in this movie now? And that's Bob Barker. He just died.
Does she know what The Price is Right is?
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
Well, you got to think,
no, I know.
But era of staying home isn't Price is Right.
At home at 10 o'clock.
It's not Price is Right anymore, man. That ended 20 years ago.
No, it's still going with Drew Carey.
No. Okay, first of all, yeah, it is still going. Nobody's watching that show nearly as much.
Well, I know, but it's still there, CBS 10 a.m.
But people aren't staying home anymore and watching Price is Right the way that we did because they have YouTube and the internet.
Oh, I understand.
And TikTok.
Usually when you're sick, you're just lying on the couch and
Yeah, but you're thinking of it the way that we had it.
Yeah.
Both of us, despite our age gap, we both lived this life of all I have is cable.
I just had to get up and actually physically move the dial. You had a remote.
You didn't have a remote control?
Not when I was little.
Oh man, I like to hear that stuff.
That came more in my teenage years.
Were you having the 12 buttons? Because that was our first TV. I had to hit the button on the TV.
No, not the buttons. When we got the first little cable box that was in it, that had the little slide clicker thing.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Not having a remote would be brutal.
Yeah. That was when, you'd go over to Grandma and Grandpa's when you were sick and they had a TV that weighed 8,000. It was a piece of furniture.
Yeah, but there was an element to changing the channel that I used to like of either the button or the knob that you had to turn.
Yeah, this was a whole, knob thing.
I know. I remember it. My great-grandparents had a TV like that. By the way, the poll question was, what was your favorite? Not what was the best. What was your favorite? And it's a tiny sample size, but Chubbs won.
I get that.
He's great in that role.
He's awesome.
I mean, he's great in general.
It's all in the head.
It's all in. You know what's funny is I remember that scene. I've seen that movie too many times to count. Yeah. But in rewatching it on, Friday, in rewatching it, he really leans into the lisp.
Oh, yeah.
It's all in the hips.
Yep.
And if you look at his face, it's almost like they couldn't get a straight shot, so they just took the best one where he was laughing, because he is laughing with Adam Sandler. It's all in the hips. It's all in the hips. I couldn't imagine having to shoot that scene. But Carl Weathers passing away. And for more recent work, I mean, he's done a million things, but people were chiming in that his role as himself in Arrested Development.
Oh, okay.
And I haven't watched all of the Arrested Development episodes, but I've seen snippets of him in that, and he basically comes off as the cheap guy. So he eats something off the bone and goes, Larry, or not Larry, but you throw this in a pot and you can make a stew, and now I've got soup too. And so that seemed like great. And then he was also in The Mandalorian. He was one of the more popular characters in the Star Wars Disney Plus show, The Mandalorian. So it's, sad we lost him too, but at least he had that last season. But Carl Weathers dying, I didn't think it would do anything, and it did. I was kind of put down in the dumps a little bit. I like Carl Weathers.
Yeah, that was sad as we were heading home from Stockton.
One of the all-time great mustaches, too, in the business.
Oh, yeah, him, Billy D. Williams.
Yeah, Billy
Tom
D. Williams. Yeah, your top three. Sam Elliott?
Elliott's is in there. Yep, it's a little different.
Who would the fifth be? Who is our fifth great mustache? We got Selleck, Weathers, Billy D., Sam Elliott. Who is our fifth great mustache actor? Trying to think of the 80s. 80s and 90s. Burt Reynolds. Yeah. Can we come up? I don't think we come up with 5 better ones than that one.
I would challenge anybody to get a better 5 than that.
Well, we can go through that. If you want to give your 5 most famous, actor mustaches of all time, we have Burt Reynolds, Sam Elliott, Tom Selleck, Carl Weathers, and Billy D. Williams. I'm sure there's going to be one that somebody throws at us that we go, oh, yeah. And we're going to have to think about if we bump anybody, but I'm not bumping Carl Weathers. R.I.P. Carl Weathers, a longtime actor, obviously famous for his Apollo Creed role. We have a loaded show today, Swigard. I know you're coming in with the Mondays, the travel weekend, the busyness behind the scenes. We've got a busy show today. We have 4 guests. This is, I think, the second time ever the show has had 4 guests.
Well, it is Super Week.
It's Super Week with the super big football game.
Super big football game, the NBA trade deadline.
Can you imagine being so greedy as an entity, you prohibit people from just branding it what it is? We have to call it the super big important game.
Well, you call it the super big game if we're just talking about it, we can refer to it as Super Bowl. But the minute somebody's paying for some access, you gotta dial it back.
That's why our opens say Super Week on the fan, not the obvious name of what the game is. But it is here. And so let's run down the guests. We had some Chip Kelly news over the weekend break, and also some pretty big college football news that happened as soon as we got off the air on Friday. Prototypical 9:05 fashion, it breaks. So we haven't been able to react to the SEC and the Big Ten stuff. Jesse Simonton is a columnist for On3 Sports. He had the Chip Kelly news. He'll join us coming up here at the bottom of this hour at 6:30. At 7, I had forgot that we booked this. You had to remind me. Michael Lombardi, he's got a new book out. He does the podcasting stuff. He's all over TV. Former NFL front office exec. He knows Bill Belichick. He grew up into that tree. Or not grew up, but he was, made his bones in that business, and he's got a really good perspective. We'll dive into the Super Bowl with him at 7 a.m. At 7:30, we will break from football. NBA trade deadline week is here. It's on Thursday, and so Sean Highkin of the Rose Garden Report will join us for the Daily Ticker at 7:30. We'll get his early read of if the Blazers are going to be active at all. And then coming up at 8:15, we'll talk a little hodgepodge of things. Oregon football is number 3 in the recruiting rankings. Basketball programs in the Pac-12, Oregon State. Oregon got a split. Oregon State got embarrassed in their second game and went 0-2 on the road after beating Arizona schools. So we'll talk about that and conference realignment stuff in general with Tyson Alger. So there you go. There's our 4 guests. It is Jesse Simonton, Michael Lombardi, Sean Highkin, and Tyson Alger coming up on the show. Let's get it going. We'll start a nice little road trip. Well, kind of. Not bad. We'll start locally. Dirt and Sprague on the Fan.
But you say he's just a friend. And you say he's just a friend.
This is a Super Week edition of Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
on 1080 The Fan.
We got some sorting to get done here. Somebody bring up a good point at the Vancouver Ford text line. Must be nice to get 6 years of security because of a 2-week sample. That is the outlier of your success. I still can't believe they extended Tinkle because he had an incredible 2-week run with a crappy team. He's awful. His road home splits, have you seen these? His home road splits are like embarrassingly bad. They had like 38 points with 8 minutes to go in the game. They're awful. And, Arizona State is on a losing streak right now, but Oregon State might be the worst team in the conference at this point. That's where it's at. But, hey, the Elite Eight happened, and so let's give a 7-year extension or whatever the hell it was. I feel that comment a lot. And you look no further than Washington State. I've said this before. With the uncertainty of the football landscape, and we'll dive into that with Jesse Simonton of On3 coming up here at the bottom of the hour. It certainly feels like you should care more about your basketball program. Your women's program's fantastic. Ruick's got that thing in great shape. It's humming.
Yeah, they had a down year a year or two ago.
They had 2 seasons that you'd say were a little down.
People transfer out, didn't have the recruiting class wasn't where it had been before, but now you've got it right back.
You've got young players and veteran players. It's a great combo, and they're thriving. You should care about your men's program, and it's quite clear they don't. And if they did, well, again, this is the position they put themselves in. I digress. I don't know what to do about Sprague and Line. We'll get to some Blazer stuff very quickly here.
Did you even do it on Friday?
I did do it Friday. No, I'm well aware. You and Dirt did not give your picks in, and so I'm stuck in a position of I'm dead last, and I know one guy's busy and the other guy's busy. It's not my responsibility to bother you guys for your Sprague and Line picks. I was told last week counts, and this coming week counts.
No, this coming week, definitely.
No, I was told last week counts by the guy that keeps the records.
Okay.
That I had 2 weeks.
What did you go?
I went 2-1.
So you're 1 game behind me.
No, but here's the thing. You guys did not participate.
And I went 0 for 3.
Well, I'm not going to make you go automatically 0 for 3. What I'm asking is, I don't know what to do here. It doesn't feel fair because of both of your situations, but also it's not fair to me. So should I just accept dead last and be the caddy? Because I also don't know if he's going to text in this week. He's on junior business.
Yeah.
I'm not going to bother him.
Well, it'll be easier this week. I will be back because our game is Wednesday this week, so I will be here on Friday.
No, I know, but what am I doing about him? I'm not bothering him. I don't want to text him about this.
Oh.
I'm not texting him at all.
I'll text him.
I don't want you to bother him.
I'm the show producer. A text is not bothering. If he gets bent out of shape by a text, he can ignore it.
Here's the thing. I kind of want you not to text him.
Listening.
But he is not listening. I kind of don't want you to text him. I'd rather just see if he even thinks about it.
If you want to pick up 2 games, and I think it would make it interesting for the show, I think that would give me a 1-game lead going into the final one.
I didn't know what also don't have records.
Oh,
I'd have
it
to
would
go back
be
to
on. I think they're on. I'll go back and look at the tweet.
That's all. That's the only way I can do it. Yeah.
So I'll go back and do that. But I think it was. Yeah. I think you were 3. I think I was 3 games up.
You were 3 or 4. I know that there was a gap there. We'll sort it out. We'll figure it out. But yeah, I didn't want to make picks. You know my stance. Non-football season.
God, what an awful weekend of.
I picked 3 NBA games.
Yeah,
and I was lucky to go 2-1, but thankfully I did. We'll figure it out. I just thought, okay, I don't know what to do here. Should I just accept last? What we're doing with Dirt being out?
So we can either do that, or we can give double points. Double wins for each
for this coming weekend.
So each win, or if you win a bet, it counts as 2.
2. Okay,
we could do that.
We could do that. We'll see if we get his picks. I want to ask you: the Blazers went on the road to Denver. They had 2 games in a row against Denver.
I saw the second half of last night's game.
That's okay. They hung with Denver. They actually played decently on the trip.
Yeah, they're a little shorthanded. Chris Murray was in the starting lineup.
He was. Jeremy and Malcolm sat out of the second game. They hung tough with him in the first game as well. DeAndre continues to play better basketball. Scoot had 30 in the first, not so much in the second, so it continues to be a rookie. Have we seen this version of the Blazers? Have we seen it for the last time at home? Will there be a trade is what I'm asking.
Yes, because their next game is Thursday. Oh, that's the day before the trade deadline.
Thursday is the deadline. So whoever gets traded Thursday, it'll happen before a game.
I thought the trade deadline was the 9th.
No, it's the 8th.
It's the 8th?
It's the 8th, yeah.
I think somebody gets dealt. I don't know how many, but I think definitely somebody gets dealt.
Because they keep acting like they're not going to move anything. That's kind of the vibe that they're sending out is like, we don't really need to trade. I don't think they value the draft capital for this year's picks. So it's like a moot point to bring it up. They already have 2 picks. Yeah. I want to ask Heiken about that. How much this draft class sucking has kind of changed maybe the thinking of acquiring as many assets as they can or forcing that issue. But it certainly feels like, it's sitting on the fence, I think. They'd have to have the right offer presented to them, Swag, for them to want to move off.
Yeah.
Certainly Jeremy. Jeremy is not a piece I think they want to trade.
No, they would like for him to be a piece of whatever is to come.
But Malcolm is the one that's like, or Tease. Tease hasn't been shooting the ball very well as of late. So, maybe it's a Tease or a Malcolm thing, depending on who comes calling. I did see Heat Nation is back. They're back to telling us Portland should give them the positional player that they so covet. They need guard play. Rozier's been awful. They have been in a tailspin since that trade, and Malcolm Brogdon would make sense for them. But here we are again with do you give Malcolm for Tyler Hero? That's what Miami Heat fans are yelling about right now.
No, I think if the Heat are desperate enough to come back and try to get him, then I would. Tyler Hero doesn't fit what they're trying to do in any way, shape, or form.
Well, they're worse with him too. Well, not Portland. Miami is worse with him. That's why they want to move him.
That's not what anything that Cronin or Billups wants to bring in.
Yeah, unless they're taking the same approach they took with the Dame trade. Can you flip a piece for a piece that you can flip again?
At some point, we got to quit flipping.
Really? You're already over the flipping, huh?
And at some point, it has to turn into something.
Well, that's what we're talking about. Will this turn into anything this year?
I don't know if it turns into anything this year.
Because Jeremy's under contract and Malcolm's got another year after this. Like, they don't have to rush this.
No, the Robert Williams III injury.
You could do that in the summer. You don't. Well, he's not playing. He's out the whole year. I'd save that for the summer.
We'll see. Somebody might get, I don't know how desperate Philly gets, how long Embiid's going to be out, if they're desperate for something.
That's another team. It's like, are you going to get desperate? Because, like, he might be back, but if you get the right seed, like, you get the Knicks in the first round as a 7 seed, if you fall to that and Embiid comes back for the postseason, Knicks are a tough team.
Well, but if you're the 7 seed, you got to do the play-in thing.
True. But if you have Embiid, if Embiid is healthy, and that's a big if.
It should be, but it's 1 game or 2 games if you're the 7 seed. But
I'm going to get Joel Embiid against who? Trae Young? Yeah, I guess you could say he beat him a couple
how
years
much
ago.
time does he have to come back with that sort of thing? And like I said, I don't know if they want to try to, stay in a top 4 so they can have home court advantage. I don't know.
Yeah.
If they're desperate and they feel like he's going to be back sooner than later and they don't want to give up too much ground, I could see him trying to do something.
Well, we'll talk about this with Sean Heiken coming up at 7:30. We don't normally have a lot of guests in the first hour of the show, Swigard.
It's exciting.
It is nice. Exciting. Well, this guy broke some of the Chip Kelly news. The Chip Kelly is unhappy and UCLA is unhappy, and here they are. They're still together. Chip Kelly,
anybody be unhappy living in Los Angeles?
I've been making this point. I think almost all of college football is generally unhappy.
Yeah, because
generally most fan bases and entities are unhappy right now. And we'll talk about why that is as well. Jesse Simonton covers college football for On3. He'll join us coming up next on the Chip Kelly front and just where the state of college football sits. Jesse Simonton is next before Swag with the Sports Update.
This is a Super Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Brought to you by Vulcan Design and Construction. Check out their award-winning outdoor living designs or schedule your free design consultation at vulcandc.com. First on The Fan, Trailblazers shorthanded once again in Denver Sunday night, giving rookie Chris Murray his first career start. Portland led by as many as 14 early on before getting overwhelmed in the second half. They lose 112-103. Nikola Jokic finishing with 29 points, 8 boards, and 7 assists for Denver. Blazers back home for 7 in a row starting Thursday against the Pistons. As the Chiefs and 49ers arrive in Las Vegas to begin final preparations for Super Bowl 58 this Sunday, Kansas City quarterback Patrick Mahomes' father was arrested for driving while intoxicated in Tyler, Texas over the weekend. Washington Commanders moving quickly to fill out new head coach Dan Quinn's staff. Cliff Kingsbury appears to be the guy as offensive coordinator, while Joe Witt Jr. will come with Quinn from Dallas to serve as defensive coordinator. Severe wind and rain hitting the Monterey coast in California. That forced the PGA Tour to end the AT&T Pebble Beach National Pro-Am after 54 holes. They declared U.S. Open champ and former Oregon Duck Wyndham Clark the winner after firing a course record 60 on Saturday. College hoops over on 910 ESPN Portland tonight. 8th-ranked Kansas Jayhawks going to Manhattan to face the Wildcats of Kansas State. 6 o'clock tip. Pregame coverage at 5:45. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigart from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. The pro football playoffs are here. Watch and wager on every game at Spirit Mountain Casino. Visit spiritmountain.com.
You're invited to play in the first annual Fan Winter Golf Classic at X Golf Tualatin and X Golf Vancouver. Sign your threesome up at 1080thefan.com.
Hey everybody, Sprague here. You know those pesky issues that pop up around your home? I'm talking drain issues. They get clogged, run slow, and start to smell. My friends at Three Mountains Plumbing want you to have more time to yourself and don't want you to have to worry about your drains, toilets, and plumbing systems. They're here to take care of the plumbing projects you need to get done around your home. Is one of your sink or shower drains clogged and draining slowly? Is your water heater leaking? Does that toilet constantly run? Are you planning to get new faucets? The licensed plumbers at Three Mountains Plumbing can handle your plumbing problems, big or small. So don't let that drain issue bother you any longer. When you use Three Mountains Plumbing, you get quality service with exceptional results. For 23 years, they've been helping homeowners across Portland with their plumbing, drain, and water heater issues. From repairs to replacements, tune-ups to installations, they can do it all. Three Mountains Plumbing makes it easy to schedule an appointment. You can call them at 503-714-6460, or you can schedule online at threemountainsplumbing.com. They make plumbing and electrical services delightful. Be sure to tell them Sprague sent.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now, and the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products, and we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you
All right, welcome back in. Dirt and Sprague with you on this Monday morning, 6:35 a.m. And we've got a guest on 3.com, columnist for college football, Jesse Simonton on Twitter at Jesse R.E. Simonton. Give him a follow. He's got a couple stories up right now at on3.com, including with Chip Kelly eyeing an exit from UCLA. The Bruins made a mistake not firing their head coach last November, and he dives into it. It's a really good read. Jesse joins us now. Good morning, Jesse. Thanks for hopping on with us this morning. I really enjoyed the article, and I want to ask, like, how did we get to this point where a program doesn't want to coach, but the coach is trying to leave the program but can't get a job yet? And here you are in February, not having any idea what the future holds between the two.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Brandon. I mean, UCLA is in a lose-lose situation right now, and I think that they, hindsight is always 20/20 in a lot of these situations. But when that news leaked after UCLA kind of no-showed, had a real terrible performance against Arizona State, all those reports leaked out from some Bruins insiders that they were going to move on from Chip Kelly, that it had been 6 seasons. The results simply hadn't been there with the expectations. He was kind of clashing with boosters. The NIL funds were insufficient. And then he goes and he really kind of embarrasses Lincoln Riley that very next week. They have a huge win against USC. Didn't even matter that a lot of people forget they didn't lose to Cal in ugly fashion the very next week, but that USC win seemed to save his job. And yet with everything that's kind of materialized after that we can get into, it really looks like they should have pulled the trigger when they, were itching to do so back in mid-November.
It felt like, Jesse, for us covering the Pac-12 out here, that it just felt like that was like inevitable to a certain degree, that like this had run its course and it hadn't been very successful. Why didn't UCLA do the obvious thing?
Well, I think, for one, I'm not sure that I think that they, you have a guy like Dante Moore, and he's on your team, and you're not really sure how that situation's going to unfold. And so there were ADs this past cycle that were nervous about opening up that whole free transfer window within your roster. I think they also probably felt, hey, look, Chip has put together a really strong defensive staff. With DeAnton Lynn, a young guy he brought from the NFL. What happens? They totally turn around UCLA's defense. They had one of the top 10 defenses in the country a year ago. And the fact that you're going into the Big Ten next season in 2024, I think they were pushed towards maintaining that continuity. Again, then he wins the bowl game, so they go 8-5. Doesn't look quite as bad. But everything that's unfolded since has just been disastrous. You lose Lynn to USC. Moore goes to the transfer portal anyways and ends up transferring to Oregon. And then the top two guys who absolutely would have been UCLA's main targets, Jed Fish and Jonathan Smith, are now no longer in the Pac-12 and no longer at their current jobs. Fish is now at Washington, and Jonathan Smith was one of the first coaches hired when he left for Michigan State. So this has all culminated into a very, very bad no-win situation. No matter how this plays out, if Chip ends up getting another job, be it with the Seattle Seahawks or something else, UCLA is in a really rough spot. And if he stays, they're kind of in a broken marriage where clearly each party isn't exactly satisfied with the other right now.
Now, Jesse Simonton's our guest here, national college football columnist for On3.com. He's got some good pieces up at On3.com, including this Chip Kelly one that he broke over the weekend. Let me ask you, if he doesn't get a coveted OC gig in the NFL, I don't even know what's available. I have to go look through it. But if he doesn't leave for the NFL and he stays, is UCLA really going to run this in? Because if they start the season something like 1-5, doesn't that kind of feel like the obvious first coach kind of fired in the Big Ten because neither likes each other? I guess I'm asking, if Chip doesn't find a job, UCLA's really going to try to stick this out for a few weeks into the season? Or is this something where you could see him coaching the entire year? I don't understand, I guess, the strategy of UCLA's side of this.
Well, the problem with where UCLA is right now is, as we sit here on, February 5th or so, whatever it is, early February, UCLA, if they were to fire Chip Kelly, let's say tomorrow, that 30-day transfer portal window would then open up for their roster. So how much are you willing to hemorrhage your own team right now heading into what's going to be a very difficult situation in the Big Ten next season? So if they do if Chip does not get a job, which I believe the Seattle Seahawks is one of the only NFL coordinator jobs still open. Now the Oakland Raiders still have that opening since Cliff ended up going to.
No, they hired Luke Getsy. They got Getsy from the Chicago guy. Yeah.
Okay. So I missed that. So one situation that could be interesting to monitor is that Chip has been at least somewhat, I think, linked to the Boston College opening. I don't think that's going to happen because I do think that Chip wants out of college football, and that seems to be trending towards Bill O'Brien. But if Bill O'Brien gets hired, what does that mean for Ohio State? I doubt that would be an avenue for Chip, but he does have a relationship with Ryan Day. I think Ryan Day played for Chip at New Hampshire, so that could be something to potentially monitor. Either way, I don't think that Chip is going to be long-term for UCLA. It would not behoove UCLA to make a move, though, now, because they've been backed into a corner where if you did, you would lose already. You've already lost some of your best players on the roster anyways. How much more are you willing to kind of give up there?
What was your read on the Big Ten and SEC announcing their advisory joint committee group evaluating the landscape of the future of the sport? What was your read on that?
It's a power move by two power players. I mean, it's not a surprise that Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey are looking to kind of flex their elbows and make moves here. They're both of them. The two power conferences. My colleague Andy Staples has kind of nicknamed them Big and Rich. That they're going to be the power players in the sport. So if this was 5 years ago, that relationship never would have happened because it was like ice and oil and water with Sankey and Kevin Warren, but Petitti and Sankey have a much better relationship. They are going to dictate it and kind of determine what the future of college athletics look like, especially because there is this kind of power vacuum right now with no commissioner and no real structure or guidelines from the NCAA.
Jesse, I'll get you out of here on this one, man, because good stuff on UCLA, but the college football world is interesting. It's evolving, but evolving in a lot of people's ways, not in the best direction. Do you think this ultimately leads to a Big Ten SEC break-off of just them two, or do you think they're just looking to consolidate most of the money and most of the available spots in whatever expanded playoff they conclude with in a couple years?
That is absolutely a factor. I think the biggest thing for these schools is what does the future of college athletics look like in terms of structure, infrastructure, model, and I think that's the big focus that Petitti and Sankey have, and I think that would include a lot of those West Coast schools, whether it is Oregon and Washington and USC and UCLA and even the Arizona schools that want to participate because. In this Super League, you have a league like that that's basically a mini NFL. How many schools are really going to sign up to lose 8-9 games a year? So if you kind of maintain what college football has looked like for a long time, but modernize it with, hey, these kids need to be on scholarship, but they need to be on some sort of contract where, the transfer portal isn't running wild. NIL becomes largely a non-factor for the majority of the players, unless you're Caleb Williams. And I think that would help alleviate a lot of the problems right now in college athletics. Figure out a collective bargaining agreement, admit and acknowledge that this is basically a mini professional league, but you could still maintain the modicum of amateurism by these kids are still going to school. They're still doing that, but they're just, contractually paid to pay a sport that is making all these schools ungodly amounts of money.
Yeah, there we go. Good stuff. Jesse Simonton of On3.com, national college football columnist. He's got some pieces up on On3.com, including this Chip Kelly eyeing an exit from UCLA and how the Bruins made a mistake not firing their head coach last November to get ahead of the hiring cycle and trying to salvage the portal and recruiting classes and whatnot. It's a really good read, and it certainly seems like a very bad marriage. Jesse Simonton on Twitter, at Jesse Simonton. Jesse, thanks for the time this morning. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, there we go. Good stuff from Jesse Simonton of On3.com. Let's talk a little bit about this, the state of college football, and just how ugly it clearly is at UCLA with Chip. That's next on The Fan.
The Fan is on in your home.
Program and services not available in all states.
This ain't the heartache that I thought
This is a Super Week edition of Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
on 1080 The Fan.
And some thoughts that the YouTube video is lagging. I hope that's not still happening for people on the YouTube
It looks
stream.
a little sluggish.
Great. Awesome. It's always nice when that happens on a nearly everyday basis in the 6 a.m. hour. Sorry for that. I apologize on behalf of our station, but thank you. You can also reach the show at the Vancouver Ford text line, 503-864-6326. Michael Lombardi, former NFL front office exec. You've seen him on ESPN. He's got his own podcast. He's got a book out. He's going to join us at the top of the hour. We have a Super Bowl this week. Oh, my God. It's here. I'm a fan of one of the teams, and I'm miserable.
Why? You have no faith? What do you...
my team has to get past the greatest quarterback to breathe oxygen. It seems...
He's only got one target that he's like
cool.
Truly...
Yeah, okay. You're doing it too. You're going to do that? You're going to tell me he only has one real target and that offense should get shut down? Okay, all right. I've heard it before. And then he goes into Baltimore, and then he goes into Buffalo, and none of that
you're
matters.
You're going to be insufferable this week. Thank God I'm out for a few days.
You know what? Thank your lucky stars your team isn't any good. It's not fun when your team's good. It makes it more miserable. We had some news break on Friday. One of our listeners tweeted, like, I'm so pissed. Like, as soon as you guys sign off, something happens. Yeah, I felt the same way. The Big Ten and the SEC announced a partnership, an advisory joint group they're putting together to examine and explore the future of college football and the final few years of the college football playoff. They have not locked into an agreement, and they might want to run this course until 2026 and then re-examine everything. Now, Ross Dellinger wrote a really good piece, as he almost always does on this stuff, at Yahoo Sports, and he specifically cites the Pac-2, not the Pac-12, the Pac-2. He said at their meeting ahead of the championship game, the board of managers encompassing a president of each of the 10 FBS conferences in Notre Dame was poised to lead the 12-team expanded playoff from what's known as the 6+6 format to the 5+7. So it's one less automatic qualifier, a decision corresponding with the Pac-12's demise. However, the vote was delayed by Pac-12 representative on the board, Wazoo's Kirk Schultz, whose vote in format change is necessary. The decision must be unanimous to change the format for the final 2 years of the contract in 24 and 25. According to those with knowledge of the situation, Schultz introduced the CFP leadership a proposal that seeks guarantee of voting rights and revenue distribution to the Pac-2's Washington State and Oregon State beyond the 2025 season. That proposal, presumably tied to his vote in a format change, was, in no shocking development, met with pushback. What's your read on the Big Ten and the SEC joining together for a, quote, advisory board?
Well, it clearly shows that they are doing their own thing. They don't worry about anybody else, but they know that in order to do anything unilaterally, they got to have at least some sort of head nod from the other conference in order to get it implemented. So the fact that they're talking, they may decide to do things differently. I don't know. We heard from Jesse there talking about, Kevin Warren and Paul, Jim Sankey were oil and water. So if he and Petiti are getting along a little better, then
that relationship was, as soon as Petiti got the job, by all reporting, it sounds like he reached out and they joined together.
But no, they should be talking. This is how we're handling this. Their TV networks are different. Now the Big Ten, I don't think the Big Ten in the future will be dealing directly with ESPN much, will they?
NBC.
They got NBC, Fox. CBS, and Fox as their main guys. Now,
there's probably an occasional. There's always,
because they still have the Big Ten network to put their own stuff on, and that's a partnership with Fox. So I don't know how much they're dealing with ESPN, ABC.
Yeah, I'd have to go look at that. Usually they get that 9 a.m. ESPN game as soon as game day's done.
I wonder where those will go. We'll see if any of those go to Peacock, how many go on the Big Ten network.
That's right. The Cock Network's going to be in full force.
So it'll be interesting to see. You have CBS Sports Network now. Do they figure in? Do they get a 9 a.m. game from the Big Ten that goes there? I don't know all the pieces and parts for the second and third picks after each network gets their big primetime game.
Well, something we could ask Tyson Alger at 8:15 and maybe talk about in the third hour of the show, Swag, is do you trust that these two entities are going to make it better or worse? because I said this at the start of this when USC announced they were going with UCLA to the Big Ten. I remember doing those shows in the summer with Dirt, and I remember saying, like, you think this is over? No. This is going to be Big Ten expansion more. And that ended up being his alma mater, even though in the moment he didn't, felt like, okay, they're going to stay here. And my biggest fear was that these two entities were going to realize where they were and who they were and basically break off and form their own thing. I still have that concern. I think people poo-pooing that, and Josh Pate hinted at something. I think what he was hinting at on the show last night, for those that missed it, he says, and there's another domino that's probably going to fall next year after some legal cases. That is, without a doubt to me, Florida State and the ACC basically probably crumbling. And at that point, the SEC and Big Ten swoop up their power players. And now you've expanded from, 16 and 18 to maybe a clean both 22.
Well, I also wonder if they'll be looking to replace rather than add. Do you get to a point? Do you
cut a program for a different program?
Is it feasible to have a 20-team conference? Not just in football, but in all the other sports?
I think the way the sport is modeled now, and you're seeing this with coaching, Chip Kelly's a good example of this. I just think you're seeing in general, like, it's just such a broken situation. There's a lot to fix, whether that's, player associations or unions of some sort, and revenue distribution broken off in 8 different ways. I don't know what it is, but
if you have 20 teams in the SEC and you're only playing an 8-game schedule, you're only playing a third of the conference. Well, how is that relevant?
Petiti wants to expand the playoff to 16. That's the other part of this. He wants it to be 16 after.
Well, that's all fine and dandy, but what I'm saying is, in the conference, if you're only playing a third of the other conference, how is that relevant to determine a single game champion?
That's certainly a fair question to be asked. I don't know. I don't know where this is going. I think all of this is still a little confusing and hazy, but those two being involved together in cahoots, that would make me very nervous for the non-power players of the sport. We'll talk with Tyson Alger about that at 8:15. But we start our second hour. The Super Bowl is here. Author and former NFL front office exec Michael Lombardi will join the show to kick off hour number 2 to give us a glimpse into his book and what he thinks about this matchup. Hour 2, Dirt and Sprague on the Odyssey app and The Fan.
When was
straight on the coaches, players, and history of the NFL. Michael Lombardi, former NFL GM, NFL analyst, and you can catch him on his podcast, The Real GM Podcast Shuffle. It's a really good listen for anybody who wants to dive into the NFL. And Michael is kind enough to join the show yet again. He's on Twitter at @MLombardi NFL. Michael, we've got a Super Bowl this week. It's here, baby.
I love it. Don't you love it? It's so good. It's a great time of the year, although it's a little bit like Christmas Day. You know, it's great that Christmas gets here, you open the presents, and then you realize winter's coming, and you got to deal with it, right? And then you got to wait another long time before it, you know? So anyway, but I'm going to enjoy it for the moment.
Yeah, no, I think all of us are. It's a good one. Niners Chiefs, a rematch from 19. I know America felt like they were rooting for the Lions Ravens, but we get Niners Chiefs. Michael, I don't have your expertise in the sport. I try to be as knowledgeable on it and read up on it as much as I can. And I've concluded that for most people, it's just this simple. Who has Patrick Mahomes and who doesn't? Is that how it breaks down for you?
Well, I mean, that's a good way to start, right? You can't go wrong there. I mean, you've been proven right over time, so that's a good start. But I think more than anything is who's playing well, right? The Niners haven't played very good in 2 games, and yet they're here. Let's just break it down. They gave up 10 touchdowns all year on the ground. They've given up 5 in the playoffs. They've given up 9.6 yards per pass attempt in the regular season. They've given up 12.1 in the postseason. They've given up 4.1 yards rushing. They gave up 5.6 in the postseason. They haven't played good. I mean, it's just a fact. They haven't, and they got here. And that's a testament to their mental toughness, their drive, their ability to find a way to win the game. But can that continue? Can that lack of being really good playing continue? That's the hard part for me. I'm having a hard time getting over. There's no evidence to support you saying the Niners are going to turn it around.
Yeah, it's one of the rare, like, the underdog feels like the favorite and the favorite feels like the underdog. I was thinking about Super Bowls in my life, and one of the Super Bowls I have that feels the same way is that Raider-Bucks Super Bowl years ago. The Raiders.
Oh, you got to bring that up. Seriously. You have to bring that up. You have me on the show, and you want to walk down memory lane on one of my worst memories? Are you kidding me? You're doing that to me on an early morning? Come on, that's not nice.
We're good enough friends for me to say it out loud. I'm sorry. No, but like it doesn't happen very often where that, and that's kind of the feel here. I know the Niners are favored by less than a 2 points or what have it, but Kansas City coming and what part of the reason I think people are taking Kansas City is not just Mahomes. The defense is electric. It's fantastic this year. What, in your view, makes Spags so good? From somebody with experience and who I can identify this stuff, what makes Spags so good?
Well, I mean, he attacks the protections, right? So what he does is he just doesn't blitz to call a blitz. I think most fans think, oh, they're just calling a blitz. No, blitzes are like a Patriot missile. They are designed to hit a specific target and attack the protection, the rules in the protection. And so he does a really good job of understanding how the offense wants to protect and then find ways to be deceptive within the protection. So that's where he's really good. Now, before we go all down that road, I mean, remember Buffalo, they had the ball for 37 minutes in the last time they played, right? They moved the ball up and down the field. And frankly, you know, when you break that game down, you're sitting there saying, how did this happen? I mean, Buffalo had 5 drives of over 10 plays or more. They had 14 play, 11 play, 12 play, 15 play, 16 play. The last drive of the game was a 16-play drive that they missed the field goal on. Plus, Stephon Diggs dropped a touchdown pass. So, like, there's vulnerability within both defenses. And I think ultimately it's going to come down to which quarterback, go back to your point about Mahomes, which quarterback executes under pressure. The other factor of this game to me, as it relates to Spags and it relates to Andy Reid, is the script, right? San Francisco has not scored a point in the first quarter in either playoff game. And the Chiefs have outgained everybody, have outscored people 46 of their 70 points have occurred in the first half. So if they get ahead, if they play from in front, it's going to be really, really hard. And that's what worries me about, you know, I'm rooting for the Niners, but that's what worries me about that.
This is author of the new book, Football Done Right, Setting the Record Straight on Coaches, Players, and History of the NFL. Also, The Gridiron Genius. You got that book out as well. Michael Lombardi, former NFL GM and front office exec, NFL analyst now, and he's got a great podcast on Twitter, @MLombardi NFL. You talk about scripted plays, execution. That leads me to the coach of the Niners, Andy Reid. We know the pedigree there, the success. It feels like Kyle Shanahan, I said this to a friend last week, Michael, it feels like Kyle Shanahan's kind of Peyton Manning-esque. Like sometimes his over-preparing and his genius can kind of get in his own way at times. I don't know if that's a bad read on it, but clock management stuff in the Packer game, and people like to kind of pin the Super Bowl against Brady and the Pats on him more so than Dan Quinn. There's an element with Kyle where he's kind of coming in. He's going to be doubted. His team hasn't played clean yet. What do you make of Kyle Shanahan going into this game, given everything you've thought about him or think about him so far in his career?
Well, I think he'll have a good plan. I think, it's the Mike Tyson line that hurts you is everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. I think that's really where we find out how they handle the pressure, what they do when you get punched in the mouth and you have to react to it. Look, Spagnola's worried about Kyle because he's worried about how he's going to attack him. He's worried about what areas the formations he wants to get in. Kyle is very good at formationing the defense to cause them to have to make shifts and adjustments within their calls, makes them communicate. And then the running game, right? Everybody thinks the running game is just call runs. What you're trying to do in a running game is get a half a man advantage from one side of the center to the other. And if you can do that, you're going to get a hole. And Kyle's very good at creating that half-man advantage, and that's where Spagnuolo, who has been run on. I mean, let's go back to Baltimore. Baltimore, 4th and 1, they run power from an unbalanced look. Lamar gets 15 yards. The next play, they call power again from a normal look, and they get 15 yards. And they don't call it again. They have 16 rushes. It's amazing. They just kind of abandoned the plan, and I don't understand it.
Is that an element of this game? Like, it's not a sexy spot, but Trent Williams is now at left tackle, not Joe Staley. Is that like an underrated part of the rematch between these two from 19 to now? Is that the left tackle was probably upgraded and Kansas City's rush defense is, of all the things on their defense, that's kind of the poorest area?
Yeah, I think so, but I think the game's going to come down to the inside guards, right? It's going to come down to can the 49er guards protect, and can they block Chris Jones? The last time they played in the last Super Bowl, they had a really hard time doing that. And one of the key plays of the game, 3rd and 10, Chris Jones just blows up the play, and Garoppolo can't get he's got a slant wide open. He can't get the ball to him. If they get that first down, they're probably going to win the game. But they couldn't do that. I think that's the game. The game is inside what I call the paint, which is the area from one guard to the other. It's our basketball terminology of the paint. What is the paint? That's where you have to get in front of a quarterback to make him have to throw the football, whether you do it to Purdy